Hello, welcome back. I'm going to be talking about the difference between representation and abstraction in this video. These are terms that get used in the arts quite a bit, and I'd like to, define our terms. It helps. Representation is often mistakenly called realism, making a realistic artwork. The way we would describe that in the arts is making a representational artwork. The opposite end of that is abstraction. So we're going to look at some points. There's some subcategories as well to observe. And then we're going to do it's not really a test because I'm not grading it, but it's an exercise where you need a pen and paper to see if you can guess if the images are representation or abstraction and what subset of those two categories we're talking about. But let's start with our terms first. Representational art portrays natural objects in a recognizable form. A subset of representational art is realism. These are artworks that strongly resemble what the eye sees. So, you could have a realistic artwork, but it's usually referring to a type of representationalism. Photorealism, you may recognize this when you see it, is an artwork that is so realistic it resembles a photograph. And photographs cannot be photorealism by their definition because they are photographs, if that makes sense. It's often the realm of painting, but sometimes you'll see photorealistic sculptures or drawings. And naturalism. This one is a little bit more subjective than the other two. This is where realistic elements remain in the artwork, but the subject is really presented from a subjective point of view of the artist. And there's certain, I guess, points to observe when we're looking at this. And I've got an example of a work of naturalism that we're going to look at in a moment here. All right, moving on to abstraction. I think, yeah, there we go. Abstract artworks have less resemblance to objects in the natural world. Notice I say less resemblance, not no resemblance. Because when there's no resemblance, we are talking about non-objective art. This is often, let me see. Yeah, not all abstract art is non-objective. Let me just back it up here. So non-objective art, there's a school of painting called color field painting, and it is what it sounds like. It's a canvas with one color represented on it. That is a classic case of non-objective art. It's art that does not, as it's described in its name, rely on the appearance of objects whatsoever. Abstraction usually uses things like basic symbols, loud truck going by there, or the feeling one gets from a particular color to convey things like meaning to the viewer. Back it up there just in case you didn't catch it all. Okay, so as promised, it is your turn. You need to get a pen and a paper, or pencil and paper, and we're gonna look at some images. And then I'm going to go through and talk about why we're labeling certain images the way we're labeling them. So you need to write down the number of the image and decide whether it's a piece of abstract art or representational art. So that's the first point. And then furthermore, it may be a work of realism, photorealism, naturalism, or non-objective art if it applies. Now, it could end at abstract or representational because that's a perfectly valid category, but sometimes the subcategories we talked about help to further designate what's going on. All right, good luck. The first one I have is an example, just to kind of get us rolling, and I had promised I'd have an example of naturalism, because it tends to be the trickiest one to discern out of the bunch. This is Puget Sound on the Pacific Coast by American landscape artist Albert Bierstadt. You would be correct in saying that this is a representational work of art because the objects in it strongly resemble what the eye sees. Photorealism? I don't think so. And the reason why I'm saying that, it is highly representational. There's not really much degree of abstraction in it, But there's a lot of subjective elements added by the artist, and it's kind of the drama that the artist is creating here. We've got the waves coming up, the sunlight break coming down from the clouds, these dark ominous clouds coming in from the right hand side, and these trees kind of being whipped around. So it's that action and intensity that really make this the realm of naturalism, if that makes sense. Sometimes there's more than one answer as well for these examples. So if you're getting one wrong or you're confused, don't freak out. You may still be right. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So starting, whoop, I think, what's going on? Here we go. Here's number 1. Pay attention to the media as well. That'll give you a clue sometimes as to what's going on. So representational, abstract, furthermore, is it photorealistic? Just a work of realism? Is it naturalism, or is it non-objective maybe? And if I'm going too fast, feel free to just pause the video and think further. I'm not going to take too much time on each of these. Got the Weeping Woman from Picasso. All right, just a note on this image. The figure is for scale. The artwork we're talking about is this large rectangle on the wall. Acrylic on canvas, it's a painting. All right, The Swing by Jean-Henri Fragonard. Canyon by Helen Frankenthaler. All right, and the last one, we've got AstroTurf Collection by Gabriele Orozco. And an inkjet print is just, you know, it's a photograph that's been printed on an inkjet printer. Or I guess, sorry, I shouldn't say photograph, I should say image that's been printed on an inkjet printer, because you can print more than just photos, right? Okay, let's back this train up here. Starting with Murray, variation 3. You would be correct if you're saying it's a work of representational art, and furthermore, a work of photorealism. Strongly resembles what the eye sees. These sculptures are uncanny. It's like, I've seen them in person, and they're like standing next to a frozen human being. They're very strange. Definitely the realm of the uncanny. All right, Picasso, you would be pretty well correct for saying that any artwork by Picasso from his Cubist period onward is an abstract work. Non-objective, I would say no, because even though there is a degree of abstraction in this artwork, it still strongly resembles what the eye sees. And the title kind of gives us a clue here. He's telling us that it's a weeping woman, and you know, there is some suspension of judgment that needs to come into play in order to see a weeping woman, but it more or less resembles what's going on. He's cleverly using some color here to convey feeling and emotion in this artwork. So like the greens and yellows, there's kind of a blue, green, and yellow of her skin. These are unsettling colors that we kind of associate with like sadness or sickness or illness. All right, Voice of Fire, which is going to come up later on in the class. So remember this artwork. This is an abstract artwork. And furthermore, you would be correct to designate it as a non-objective artwork. That being that there is no reliance on objects whatsoever in the creation of this artwork. It is simply 2 dark blue stripes flanking a central red stripe. And Barnett Newman was one of the main players in the color field painting movement, creating these large canvases of color that would just wash over the viewer, relying on color and scale to convey emotion and meaning here. All right, Fragonard's The Swing. Representational, of course, it resembles what the eye sees. However, there's a subcategory at work here. And, you know, I would make an argument that this is a work of naturalism. And it kind of like when we saw with Albert Bierstedt's Puget Sound landscape, we've got some subjective elements that are added by the artist here. Time's been frozen a little bit whimsically, this main figure on the swing. One of the big hallmarks is this shoe that's been kind of caught fortuitously mid-flight. As well as we've got some kind of like Albert Bierstadt had. We've got the light coming down from the clouds here, and these two fellows kind of caught in, I don't know, strange poses that are not entirely the world of realism, if that makes sense. Canyon. Now there's arguably two answers here. If you're saying that this is a work of abstract art, you would be entirely correct. And I don't know if it's you could make an argument for it being non-objective as well, or just plain abstract, which would be both are entirely correct in their answer. It could be, if we didn't know what the title was, I would make an argument that it is a non-objective artwork. But since we do know the title, it seems like it's Frankenthaler's attempt to represent a canyon. So that kind of brings it into the realm of what the eye sees with a degree of abstraction to it, if that makes sense. And then finally, AstroTurf collection. This one's tricky, and students often have a hard time kind of sorting this one out because there's a number of things going on. This is some photographs that Orozco has taken from, you know, a varying distance of a, I think it's like a baseball diamond or a football field or something, or no, maybe a soccer pitch. I don't know. Anyway, it's a sports field. And he's, you know, started off in the top corner, so zoomed out that it's an aerial photograph. And the photographs get closer and closer until you start to pick out the little individual bits of garbage that are on the field. He's talking about like perspective, scale, all those types of things, like the macrocosm versus the microcosm. There are a couple different answers as to what's going on here. Yes, this work is representational in that these photographs resemble what the eye sees. They're not abstract photographs necessarily. All put together, it becomes kind of a work of abstraction. I wouldn't say it's non-objective because there is, you know, the elements of objects in this, but this is an example of an artwork that can be both representational and abstract at the same time, if that makes sense. Okay, how'd you do? If you have any questions, please shoot me an email if you're struggling with any of the definitions. We can also set up a Zoom if you want to talk in person. Just let me know what's up. Okay, hope you enjoyed.